Welcome back. Welcome back to the studio. Yesterday I slammed my foot into a very heavy solid glass side table that my mother owns, and that table is designed to hurt people. It has literally hurt people over the last 2 decades. And apparently yesterday it was my turn. That table is so heavy, you can put your full body weight into it and it will not move. I took that as a sign to spend the whole day on the couch, and then I was sent to my bed by my son, who wanted to be on the couch. So I did nothing yesterday but sketch and watch Star Trek and read art books. That's basically all I did. And I have to say, that was great. So today I have a stack of sketches. But last week I made a couple of videos on sketching from the mind and how that works and how that feels. And I feel like it's giving me, for some strange reason, more self-confidence than solely working from reference photos or live models, which, by the way, I don't do a lot because anxiety. But for some reason that has triggered my brain into thinking more creatively, maybe. I have some sketches, and from those sketches I'll probably design some kind of artwork. We'll see how that goes. Again, this is real time, not so much editing, so maybe grab your own artwork or some tea, coffee, whatever your beverage is. Join me, leave a comment, and I will see you. I'm really bad at intros, and I'm probably even worse at like wrapping things up. You know, the type of people that you call and then the actual call takes about 30 seconds, but wrapping up that call takes 3 minutes? That would be me. So let's cut and go to the actual studio thing, artwork, whatever we're gonna do. Bye. Okay, well, yesterday I did a couple of these drawings. What's this? This is called Living with a Teenage Son, and it will be sold as an NFT for $2 million, in case you're interested. So let's ignore that. Fortunately, his drawing skills, my son's drawing skills, are not so good that YouTube is going to flag this as inappropriate content. So thank you. So I did these 3, and I'm actually thinking about doing multiple designs with them. There's something that I like about every composition, and there's something that I don't like about every composition. Each composition, I'm sorry. So let's see if we can, maybe if we mix it up a little bit, it'll work better. I like this. I like these 2. This, for me, this bothers me a little bit, like it doesn't introduce the composition as well as I would like it to. And here I ran I ran out of paper, of course, so maybe we can add stuff. So I always take some basic measurements. Yeah, because for me, the larger my paper, the larger my subject. And so if I draw something on a small piece of paper and then I sort of copy that to a bigger piece or a canvas or whatever, in my mind I have more space because the substrate is bigger, and then I still run out of space. And I've learned that it's because I enlarge the shapes relative to the paper that they were drawn on. So for some reason I just copy the shape within the confounds of the original substrate. If I'm making any sense. So these sketches were just like the way I did the figures in my previous videos. I did them from my mind. I made a lot of corrections, though. I don't want to make you feel like I do this and then boom. It's like you can see here, right? I made a ton of corrections in here, and even under the sketch itself are so many corrections. And here. And then you come, you know, the hands and the feet, those are very difficult parts. So last night I was thinking, you know, if I have a composition that I'm happy with, I will take some reference photos for the elements that don't sit right with me. So my issue with this figure is that it's very massive. Like it's a very solid form. Probably work better as a bottom figure, like an element on which other elements rest upon, or something like that. Thing is, we have this diagonal here, and I would like for something to counteract that sort of. And so this here, this shoulder, is a very uncomfortable position. I'm trying to see through the paper. Yeah, this is just regular cartridge paper. The stuff you put in your printer. I also need, like, her head. I like this sort of resting. Okay. Well, that was a bit of a struggle. I think this is where you run into the limitations of, what you know and your experience or maybe lack thereof. This is a twist in the spinal cord where the hips are pretty much facing a little bit that way, and the shoulders are rotated that way. And what happens to the body then, how that twists and how the muscles and the skin and the fat interact when worked and twisted that way is a difficult thing to to come up with, if you will. It also doesn't help, of course, that we don't see a lot of these poses in real life. In fact, I don't even see a whole lot of naked people in my daily life. So this is always very interesting to to see if you can make an estimate. And what I sometimes do, and this is obviously not something that I would be comfortable sharing, but I sometimes take these poses and then sort of recreate them and take a photo of myself and see what elements are off. And you can get away with quite a bit as long as the joints and just the general structure of things is correct. So I might be doing that. But with this one, what I would like to do is get some shading in and just focus a little bit on the type of composition and the type of contrast that we're potentially looking for. So let's go and do that. I have, by the way, just regular, I don't know where my other charcoal is. Where's my charcoal? Got it. Just regular fine charcoal. Yep. I also have this charcoal pencil, but these lines are easy to erase. The pencil a little bit less. And then I sometimes get a brush. Like I have this one. This one's actually quite nice. It's the domed hog bristle or something like that. In my previous video about the Rosemary & Co brushes, I looked up all the product names just because I don't remember what they're called, but this one is nice. And I have the Ivory Synthetics for details. This one picks up more charcoal because it's a little bit harder. I generally start out with just just a basic layer, like a value to start off with. And I know the paper has a value. This is the the paint-on paper from Clairefontaine. Yep, that one. This is really great paper, but I think by now the whole internet knows that this is really great paper. So it has a color and therefore a value, but I tend to ignore that. Really, my workflow on tinted paper is pretty much the same as on white paper, which makes 0 sense, but whatever. I don't know why, but I just find it so relaxing to move charcoal around with your finger. And I know some people are like, you're not supposed to do that because you're gonna get the fat from your skin on your paper. But first of all, this is a sketch, so I don't really care. And second of all, I still don't care. I actually sometimes just do it, even though it doesn't require me to do it or adds anything to whatever it is I'm doing. Just, I think this is the tactile experience that makes art good for your soul, especially if you're a certain type of person that requires a little bit of grounding throughout the day. This is good. Sometimes I see these little landscapes or these little figures into like the micro shapes that you're creating. Ever since I started doing these figures, including the feet, I realized that I have no natural sense for where the big toe or the little toe is. So every time I draw something and I get to the foot, I have to think about, is it the right leg? Is it the left leg? And where is the big toe on my right foot? These things that you just, I don't know about you, but I don't think about that in real life. Unless, of course, I slam my foot into my mother's side table. That is when I realized my little toe is on the outside of my foot. And the same thing goes for the thumb, the pink. Like if you move your hand, where is the thumb? Okay, so with that first layer down, I guess from here on out, it's just building layers. You know, sometimes I erase for the highlights, even on tinted paper, but I very rarely use white. Like I see some people use white chalk or white charcoal, if that's even a thing. I haven't done that really. Thinking maybe I should try it at some point. So obviously it wouldn't be much different from working with paint, where you add both shadow and highlights in lighter areas. But for some reason, when I work with dry media, I focus very much on the additive way of working, like just adding darks until you get where you want to be. Maybe next time. So this is like, by no means is this going to be a finished artwork. It's more of a preliminary work, and because of the complexity of what I'm, or at least this is complex for me. This is this is about 2 figures more than I've ever painted. So if I wanted to go and paint this, I mean, I guess you could do it maybe in acrylics, where you have the freedom to paint over whole parts, but I've really found that sometimes it's just easier to do a little bit more extensive preliminary work. I used to find that it would interrupt, or it felt like it interrupted my flow, like my creative flow. I wanted to get working on the actual work. And I guess maybe it also has to do with the fact that I just have a little bit more time to spend on my art, which gives me more like breathing room to explore different ways of working. I mean, I remember when I would work during the day. I was a programmer, and then at night I would sort of have to do art in a very limited amount of time, and it made me feel like I had to finish something or create something within that space of time. And I don't have that issue, that lack of time anymore. And I found that it's, the whole process of doing preliminary work, it's also a way to be creative. It's just a different way to be creative. And I guess I had to get over the fact that these sketches and these things you do to prepare for a work are not sorry, are not necessarily works on their own. It's just part of a process. But again, I'm very much aware of the fact that that is a situation that I was able to create for myself, and not everyone has that luxury. It's not a luxurious life by any means as an artist, but it's definitely, in terms of time and in terms of time you have for your creative state of mind, it's definitely a luxury. Oop, yeah. This is my struggle with charcoal. For some reason, it sticks, and then all of a sudden it falls off your paper. I've come to like charcoal for its properties, but I have to say that I still struggle with, what you could call maybe like a controlled distribution. I'm always still a little bit anxious about what happens when I put my finger, my brush on a certain area. But it's getting better. Charcoal and I struggled for a very long time. And I seriously could not understand how people were raving about charcoal as if it was like dry oil paint. Like, I don't want to sound like, you know, that one person complaining about everyone at your birthday party, but oil paint doesn't spontaneously fall off my substrate. Charcoal is always a little bit, for me, a little bit unpredictable. But I have found that, with practice, it gets better, and maybe that's also the idea that I had about charcoal was maybe that it was very easy. So whenever I think something is easy, I get a little bit lazy in my application. But in terms of creating values, it's if you manage to control it, the charcoal, it's a very efficient way to work, right? So let's try out the background. So my idea for this painting maybe is that I want to do a dark background, or a dark background that is probably maybe one value lighter than the hair, which for the most part I would probably like to be the darkest value in the composition. So yeah, let's just try that, because the background tends to influence the values in the figures. So it's always a good idea to put in at least some kind of something close to what you're planning on doing. So that's what I was saying, like if you get the application of charcoal right, it's quite an efficient dry medium, a dry medium. It is because of its composition and its shape, of course, also, but much more efficient than graphite. Right? Anyone who's ever worked with graphite knows that if you want to lay down a block of value, that's going to take time. So you do have these fun graphite blocks these days, and I actually have one. I haven't used it a whole lot. Could be fun to maybe try that out next time. This is a voiceover, by the way, in case you hadn't noticed. In case you're wondering why I'm talking so much. I'm struggling a little bit with talking during these studio hour recordings. And today it's just so warm. It's so warm outside. And I just find it's probably something I need to practice, but I just find that when I talk, part of my brain shuts down or something. And either I start drawing like a 5-year-old or I start talking like a 5-year-old. So I'm gonna keep practicing that. Maybe it'll get better. But in the meantime, I might do a couple of partial voiceovers for these recordings because I don't want to make them too boring where I don't say anything for like 45 minutes. This is the best feeling ever, putting your whole hand on charcoal. I can recommend it. Just lay down a ton of charcoal and rub your hands on it. It's great. So this changes, right? The way that you look at your figures, at your values, the values that you lay down, because of that change in the background. Like I said, I want to make the hair the darkest part of the composition. And maybe do that like in a sort of a graphic shape. I think I need to start thinking a little bit about depth at this point. I struggle a little bit with the like making up the lighting in these type of compositions. Because there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on, and like I said before, you at some point you run into the limits of your imagination. And I think if I'd done like a ton more nude paintings or drawings or sketches or whatever, that that makes it easier to predict how something's going to behave. But at this point, I'm a little bit lost as to what I should do in terms of value. The only thing I know that I want is depth, as in the elements that are farther away from us, for me, should be darker. And considering the position of most of these figures, I think most of the body, of the bottom part of the body, of the bodies, are closer to the viewer, so will therefore be lighter. So I think I might see if I can establish sort of a basic idea of depth for today, and and then maybe continue tomorrow. It's the end of the school year here, and probably in a lot of other countries as well. And my son has, all of these classes that are being cancelled, so he's home super early every day for the rest of the week, which, don't get me wrong, I love that kid, but, like, leave me alone, please. I can't work with other people in the house. Gonna have to think of something during the summer holidays, because we're not really going on vacation, and I also have so much work to do for my expo at the end of the year, which we're not going to talk about right now. I have so much painting to do. So this is the part that maybe is further away from us. I'm thinking about taking a couple of basic reference photos tomorrow, if I can manage. Not really sure how I'm gonna get myself into this position and operate my camera at the same time. So let's fix some lines with a charcoal pencil. I try to postpone using a pencil until I'm certain that I'm not going to move any lines or any features or complete body parts for that matter. Because the pencil is just impossible to erase completely, whereas the vine or the willow charcoal is much easier to wipe out. And you can use the pencil also to lightly fixate some areas so you don't accidentally wipe them off. Just a way, I suppose, to tighten up some areas and to consolidate some shapes and lines. I need to darken the face a little bit. another one of those elements that are quite difficult, like the arm coming forward in that awkward position, being foreshortened. For me, it's just very difficult to imagine how that looks. And I guess I could have, this could have been a much more efficient process had I, isolated those areas earlier on and took the appropriate reference photos. But yeah, as I was working on these videos last week about, trying to see what you can extract from your mind, I actually like that way of working, as in it forces me to problem solve whenever I run into things that are not going right the first time or second time or third time, and to stick with it. And I have to admit that sometimes I'm a little bit, I don't want to call myself lazy, but I get very discouraged easily. Right, so this is also a practice for me in, maybe what you Americans call grit, I suppose. Not panicking whenever something goes, wrong or off, or not how you predicted. And just trying to see if you can see where things are off and how you could potentially fix it. So I think these layers so far are good. It needs a bit of work, but that is something for tomorrow. I'm hoping tomorrow. Seriously though, my son is going to be home from school at 11 a.m. 11 a.m. I'm seriously wondering, why are you even going to school? So, yeah, we'll see. So that was another hour in the studio, and I'm gonna go ahead and do some other studio things. And hopefully I can record another hour tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. So I hope you get some creative time in today or this week or maybe in the weekend. And leave a comment if you want on your work or your process or whatever it is you're working on right now. And I hope to see you in the next episode of Studio Hours. Have a great day. Bye bye.